The city of Chicago bustled with its usual morning rhythm, horns blaring, footsteps echoing on icy sidewalks, steam rising from sewer grates. Wealth and struggle clashed here on every corner. Towering glass skyscrapers cast shadows over worn-down brick apartments, reminding everyone who belonged where. On the 42nd floor of one of those towers lived William Carter, a millionaire in his late 50s, with silver hair slicked back, a sharp navy suit pressed to perfection, and shoes polished enough to reflect a man's face. William was ruthless in business. His empire stretched across real estate and luxury auto dealerships. People called him brilliant, but behind closed doors, he was suspicious of everyone. He believed loyalty could only be proven when temptation was within reach. And so, he tested people, employees, business partners, even friends. None were above his games. It wasn't about money. It was about power. When it came to Daniel Brooks, his newly hired driver, William had already made up his mind before the man ever gripped the wheel. Daniel Brooks, 32, was nothing like the circles William usually moved in. Daniel was tall, broad-shouldered, his dark skin contrasting against the crisp uniform jacket William had issued him. His smile was polite, but restrained, his eyes tired, yet determined. Daniel had grown up on the south side of Chicago, where gunshots sometimes replaced lullabies. His mother raised him single-handedly after his father walked out. She had scrubbed hotel floors while Daniel worked nights at gas stations and mornings unloading delivery trucks. Through hardship, he built a character of stone, honest, disciplined, grateful. Landing the job with William Carter had felt like grace. Daniel saw it as his chance to step into stability, to show the world he was more than a statistic. But William saw him differently. To William, Daniel wasn't a man with dreams. He was a stereotype waiting to be confirmed. The morning air bit with frost as William stepped into the driveway, where his black luxury sedan idled. In his hand, he carried a sleek leather briefcase, an accessory that screamed money even before one peeked inside. Inside that case sat neat stacks of $100 bills, $500,000 in total. But this wasn't a business deal. This was bait. William slid into the back seat, setting the briefcase deliberately on the leather cushion where its shine caught the winter sun. He leaned forward slightly, looking at Daniel through the reflection in the rear-view mirror. "Daniel," William said, his voice smooth but laced with condescension, "I've got a meeting upstairs. Won't take more than an hour. Stay with the car. And—" He let the pause linger, his eyes narrowing. "Don't let yourself get tempted." The words struck Daniel like cold water. The tone was familiar, the kind he had heard 1,000 times before. People who didn't know him assuming the worst because of the color of his skin. William's eyes weren't just warning, they were accusing. Daniel tightened his grip on the wheel, swallowing down the sting. He nodded once. "Yes, sir." William stepped out, his expensive shoes crunching on the salted pavement before he vanished into the glass tower. The door closed with a thud that left Daniel alone, with silence, a briefcase, and suspicion heavy in the air. Snowflakes drifted lazily down, clinging to the windshield. The heater hummed faintly, filling the car with dry warmth. Daniel sat stiffly in the driver's seat, his eyes locked on the rearview mirror where the briefcase sat like a living thing, breathing temptation. Minutes ticked by slowly, each one louder than the last. Pedestrians passed by on the sidewalk. Some didn't notice, others did. Their eyes lingered on the shiny sedan, then on the glinting leather case in the back. A pair of teenagers even stopped, nudging each other, whispering as they pointed. Daniel shifted uneasily. His chest tightened. He wasn't worried about himself. He knew where his morals stood, but about how the world saw him. If someone broke into the car, if something happened to that case, everyone would blame him first. His mind wandered back to his mother's words, etched deep into him since childhood. Integrity ain't about what you do when folks watching, Danny. It's about what you do when they ain't. Stand tall, even if the world looks down on you. That memory steadied him, but it didn't ease the heaviness in the air. What Daniel didn't know was that William hadn't gone to any meeting. Across the street, tucked inside another luxury vehicle with tinted windows, William Carter sat with a pair of binoculars in his hand. The heater blasted warm air as he sipped an espresso from a paper cup, watching his new driver like a hawk. Every twitch of Daniel's fingers, every glance toward the briefcase, William took note. He wanted to see if the poor black driver could resist when no one was watching. To William, this was entertainment. Proof of a philosophy he had carried for years. Trust no one, especially people who came from nothing. But as the minutes stretched into hours, William's smug grin began to fade. Daniel didn't touch the case. He didn't even glance at it with longing. Instead, he sat upright, scanning the sidewalks, adjusting his mirrors, occasionally rubbing his hands together for warmth. His posture screamed duty, not desire. William frowned. "Interesting," he muttered, though part of him refused to believe it. Surely, everyone had a breaking point. The longer the wait dragged, the more the world tested Daniel. A man in a ragged coat shuffled close to the car, peering through the window. His eyes widened at the sight of the briefcase. He tapped on the glass. "Hey, driver! That's your boss's bag. Must be full of cash. Don't you ever think about taking a little?" He wouldn't even notice. Daniel shook his head firmly, not even rolling down the window. He kept his eyes forward, refusing to engage. The man cursed under his breath before wandering off. Later, a woman carrying grocery bags slipped on the icy pavement near the car. Daniel almost stepped out to help her, but then froze. What if someone grabbed the case the second he opened the door? He stayed put, guilt tugging at his heart as he watched her struggle back to her feet. Every decision weighed on him. Every choice reminded him of the trap he was in. And still, William watched, waiting for him to break. The snow outside thickened, coating the city in icy silence. Inside the car, the heater coughed weakly, leaving Daniel's breath fogging the glass. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since dawn, and now the smell of fried food drifted from a diner across the street. He thought about slipping in for a sandwich, just for a moment, but his eyes darted back to the briefcase. If I step out, if anything happens to that bag. The weight of suspicion pressed heavy on him. He remembered all the times people had looked at him with those same accusing eyes, at grocery stores where cashiers double-checked his bills, at department stores where security guards trailed him through the aisles, at job interviews where the rejection came before he even sat down. And now, here he was, trusted with $500,000, but not really trusted at all. The memory of his mother's tired voice came back to him. "Danny, don't ever let them say you proved 'em right." An hour passed, then 2. Daniel's phone buzzed. A message popped up from his childhood friend, Michael, who worked at a factory across town. "You still driving that rich guy around? Bet he don't pay you what you're worth." "Man, If I was you, I'd flip the script. Grab what you can, and never look back. Daniel clenched his jaw and shut the phone off. He didn't need more voices tempting him, but fate had other plans. A police cruiser slowed as it passed, the officers inside glancing at him before pulling to the curb. One of them stepped out, a tall white officer with a square jaw. He knocked on Daniel's window. Daniel rolled it down, his chest tight. "Everything all right, officer?" The cop's eyes slid past him to the briefcase in the back. His brows arched. "What's in the bag?" Daniel's throat tightened. "That belongs to my employer." The officer smirked. "Funny. Looks out of place in the back of a car like this. Why don't you pop it open, just to be safe?" Daniel's palms sweated. He knew the drill. If he refused, it could escalate. If he obeyed, it would look like he was guilty. His voice cracked but stayed firm. "I can't do that. It's not mine." The officer's smirk twisted into a glare. "Be careful, son. Folks like you get in trouble real quick when money goes missing." He tapped the roof and walked back to the cruiser, leaving Daniel shaking with humiliation. Across the street, William Carter grinned behind his binoculars. This was better than he imagined. He wasn't just testing Daniel's honesty. He was testing his resilience under the weight of judgment. Time dragged on. Daniel's stomach knotted tighter, his hands stiff from gripping the wheel. Just when he thought the worst had passed, a young man in a flashy jacket approached the car. He was maybe 20, cocky, with gold chains glinting against his hoodie. He leaned on the passenger window, eyeing the case. "Yo, man, that your boss's bag?" Daniel didn't answer, but the guy grinned anyway. "Look, I got people. We could split it. $500,000 sitting right there. You give me 5 minutes. I'll make it disappear. Nobody ever knows. You get a cut, you walk free. That rich dude, he won't miss it. He'll just call the bank and get more." Daniel's grip on the wheel tightened. His voice was low, steady. "Walk away." Now the young man scoffed, tapping the glass. "You really gonna slave away for a man who probably don't even respect you? Open your eyes, bro. This is your chance." For a moment, Daniel's mind flickered. What if? What if he grabbed the case, took the money, and gave his mother the life she deserved? What if he could finally stop working 3 jobs, finally stop struggling, finally breathe? But then he saw his mother's face again, her tired hands scrubbing hotel floors, her voice whispering prayers at night. He shook his head hard. Not today. The young man cursed, shoved his hands in his pockets, and stormed off. Across the street, William smirked again, still watching, still waiting. Hours later, Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time, it was William. His smooth voice came through the speaker. "Daniel, how's everything holding up?" Daniel cleared his throat. "Everything's fine, sir." William chuckled, the sound oily. "Good, good. That briefcase still there?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." There was a pause. Then William's voice dropped, testing him. "You know what's inside?" Daniel hesitated. "No, sir." William chuckled again, as if he could hear the lies Daniel refused to tell. That, of course, he knew what was inside. Anyone with eyes could tell. "Well," William said slowly, "if a man were smart, he could retire off what's in that case. You ever think about that, Daniel?" Daniel froze. His heart pounded. This wasn't just a test of honesty anymore. This was a trap laced with racism. William dangling the assumption that a poor black man wouldn't resist easy money. He took a shaky breath. "No, sir." "I haven't," William hummed, as though amused. "We'll see." The line clicked dead. Daniel set the phone down, his chest tight. This wasn't a job anymore. This was survival. By the time William finally emerged from the tower, night had fallen. The city glowed with neon lights reflecting off slush-covered streets. Daniel's eyes were heavy, his body stiff, but the briefcase still sat untouched in the back seat. William slid in, adjusting his coat, his eyes darting immediately to the bag. His lips curved into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Still here, I see." Daniel only nodded, gripping the wheel tighter. He didn't trust himself to speak. As the car pulled away from the curb, William leaned back, satisfied. But in his chest, something unsettled stirred. He had set the trap, dangled temptation, even planted doubt with the police and the stranger. And still, Daniel had stood firm. For the first time in years, William Carter felt his assumptions start to crack. But he wasn't done. Not yet. Because for men like William, one test was never enough. The black sedan hummed down the snowy road, headlights slicing through the dark. Inside, silence weighed heavier than the briefcase. Daniel's knuckles were white against the steering wheel. Exhaustion etched into every line of his face. William Carter sat in the back, polished shoes crossed, eyes studying his driver like a hawk. He noticed the dark circles under Daniel's eyes, the frayed jacket sleeve, the tired way he held himself. For a billionaire, used to people begging, flattering, or scheming, Daniel's quiet resilience was foreign. Finally, William broke the silence. "Tell me, Daniel, do you know why I left that briefcase in your car?" Daniel's throat tightened. His voice was steady, but low. "No, sir." William leaned forward, his shadow stretching across the back seat. "I wanted to see what kind of man you are. Most people, especially people in your situation, wouldn't have lasted 10 minutes with that kind of money within arm's reach." Daniel's jaw clenched. He knew exactly what William meant by people in your situation. He'd heard those words his whole life, just dressed differently. Poor, black, disposable. He finally spoke, voice raw. "With all due respect, sir, you don't know me. You don't know what it's like to be watched, doubted, treated like a thief, before you even open your mouth. I didn't touch that case because it don't belong to me. Not because I'm scared of you, but because my mom raised me better than that." William sat back, surprised at the fire in Daniel's words. For the first time all day, he didn't smirk. The car rolled to a stop in front of Carter's sprawling estate, iron gates rising tall, lights glowing like a palace behind them. Daniel killed the engine, exhaustion pressing heavy on him. William grabbed the briefcase, then paused. "Come inside for a moment." Daniel stiffened. Drivers didn't get invited past the gates. But William's tone left no room for refusal. They walked into the grand foyer, marble floors gleaming, chandeliers dripping light, the kind of wealth Daniel couldn't even dream of. His boots squeaked against the polished floor, making him feel smaller with every step. William led him to a study lined with mahogany shelves. He set the briefcase on the desk, clicked it open, and spun it toward Daniel. Stacks of crisp bills filled the case, rows upon rows of green. Daniel's stomach turned. It was more money than he'd ever seen in his life. William's voice was calm but sharp. "All of it is yours if you want it." Daniel froze. His heart pounded. Was this real or another trap? William leaned against the desk, eyes cold. "You've proven more restraint than most. But let's be honest. You need this money. Your mother's in debt. You've been struggling to make ends meet. $500,000 would change your life. One word, and it's yours. Daniel's fists curled. The temptation clawed at him. He thought about rent overdue notices, about his mother crying at the kitchen table, about years of scraping by while the world told him he'd never be enough. But then his voice cracked, filled with steel. You think my dignity got a price tag? You think because I'm poor and black, I'll sell my soul for cash? You don't own in me. And I don't need your money. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. William's eyes widened slightly. For the first time in decades, someone had refused him, not with fear, but with pride. William's stern face broke into something Daniel hadn't seen before, a slow, genuine smile. Good, he said quietly. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. He closed the case and locked it. Then, with surprising gentleness, he walked to Daniel and extended his hand. You passed. Daniel blinked. Passed what? William's voice softened. A test. Not just of honesty, but of spirit. I've built my fortune on people who would sell their morals for scraps. But you've got something money can't buy. Daniel shook his head, disbelief flooding him. So, all this, the police, the strangers, the briefcase, you planned it? William nodded. Every moment. And you stood tall through it all. William turned to his desk and pulled out a different folder. He handed it to Daniel. Inside were papers, contracts, titles, shares. I want you to work for me, not as a driver, as a partner. I need someone I can trust, someone who knows what struggle feels like, someone who won't bend when the world pushes. Daniel's hands shook as he flipped through the documents. This wasn't just a job, it was a future. He looked up, his eyes wet. Why me? William's gaze softened. Because the world already decided who you are, and you proved them all wrong. The night ended with Daniel walking back through those iron gates, his heart heavy but alive with hope. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving, he was seen. William Carter had set out to test a man he thought would break under the weight of racism and temptation. Instead, he found something he never expected: integrity. And Daniel? He discovered that dignity is the one fortune no one can take away. Because sometimes the real riches aren't in briefcases or bank accounts. They're in the courage to stand tall even when the world waits for you to fall.